Good evening and welcome to the programme which the Brighton Evening Argus this week encapsulated in one sentence. In the news this week, keen to get Madonna's custom when she returns to London, the Hyde Park Hilton introduced a new line in room service. Denying rumours that he's intending to leave the country, Michael Heseltine nips down to the newsagents for a packet of cigarettes. And abroad, a team from Algeria win the World Hokey Cokey Championships. On Ian Hislop's team this week, someone who's both a comedian and a football fan, and to prove it, he supports Chelsea, David Baddiel. And on Paul's team, a Liberal MP who was once described as one of the few relatively normal people in the chamber, admittedly that was by David Icke, Charles Kennedy. And so with one bound, we leap into our opening round, in which several pieces of news footage demand to be identified. Ian and David, what royal act of diplomacy is going on here?
Oh, it's a black eagle.
Is it a German or is it a Greek?
A pound worth absolutely nothing. That was the Queen.
Well spotted.
Yes.
No, she made a wonderful speech about how that Germany and Britain had always been good friends, and like all good friends, we occasionally have sort of tiffs. 14, 18, 39, 45.
Yes, absolutely right. It is the Queen visiting Germany, or popping home for a few days, she likes to refer to it. The royal family, of course, about as British as bratwurst, was originally the Hanover family of Saxony until the middle of the First World War, when they worked out that the Windsor family of Berkshire might be slightly less provocative a name. The Queen and Prince Philip are over there to build bridges with the Germans to make up for all the ones the RAF bombed. And who better to take with her than the master of tact himself, the Duke of Edinburgh. I wonder what he'll call them, a bunch of jackbooted sausage gobblers. There were problems when a German policeman swore at Her Majesty, referring to her as the bloody British Queen, or die blutige, dumme, verdammte von der Lande, die anderen Seite frankly liegt geschichtliche Wildnis. Queen. Paul and Charles, a barely noticeable story for you.
Winston Churchill there.
Yes, a remarkable political comeback.
Cutbacks on the London Underground.
Actually, the call was delivered by John Major, and on the calling card that said, "Dear Michael, now you know what it feels like to be shafted."
That's true. That's true. True.
The funny thing was, Heseltine had no idea what this stuff was. Black stuff on there.
Yes. A mystery caller dumped 3 tons of coal on his drive. Obviously someone misunderstanding the instruction to block his back passage. As he left for an appointment on Monday, a middle-aged woman screamed out, "You dirty bastard." Interesting line of questioning there from Kate Adie. Ian and David, one true redeemer or rubber-faced clown?
Oh, what happened was Spitting Image had to withdraw their puppet of Jesus, but not because of complaints from Christians, but because of complaints from Muslims. And the producer said this was because they couldn't afford to agitate a minority group, and nothing to do with the fact that as soon as he heard the words Muslims and offended, he was crapping his pants.
The producer's name, interestingly, is Bill Dare.
Yes.
He'll now be going under the name of Bill Doesn't Dare, actually.
Somebody told me wasn't there a sketch about this show in it last week?
There was.
And you and Ian were in it.
Yeah. Yes, it is. It's Spitting Image, a satirical puppet show which goes out on independent television on Sunday nights, which has withdrawn its puppet of Christ for fear of upsetting the Muslims. Should have seen their puppet of Muhammad. Which, of course, they didn't make, because there's nothing funny about it at all. Paul and Charles, some distinguished public figures for you.
He's just rabbiting now.
This is somebody who's in charge of the BBC.
Marmaduke Hussey was accused. Oh, that's Fraser Hines Riverdale Farm. That's the head of the call board. I don't know what Doctor Who's got to do with it, though.
That was the abominable snowman.
It didn't have a face, though, did it? It had like a sort of cushion.
We know.
Well, I know
Yes. Do you want to leap
The
in?
Yeti.
Yeah, it's because he said something about, Michael Chetler said that FM, people who should be in charge of the BBC don't think FM means fuzzy monster. And Marmaduke Hussey, because he's got a name that sounds a bit like a friend of Paddington Bear's, thinks that he's a fuzzy monster.
Well, at least FM could stand for 40 monkeys.
Sorry.
Did you say 40 monkeys or 40 monkeys?
No, FO.
Right.
It's the internal strife at the BBC between Director General Sir Michael Checkland and Marmaduke Hussey, Chairman of the Board of Governors. Complaining about the difficulty of having a conversation with Hussey, he said, when you talk about FM, I want to be talking about frequency modulation, not fuzzy monsters. It's not quite clear who Sir Michael was referring to here, but we understand Patrick Moore's lawyers have already been in touch. All of which brings us triumphantly to the conclusion of this round. And any further career within the BBC, at which point I can tell you that Paul and Charles have a barely visible 2, and Ian and David have a gargantuan 5. Well, on most programmes, round 1 is rather predictably followed by round 2, but it's at this stage that we like to forcibly insert our caption competition. Both teams have a curious image thrust before them. Ian and David, here's yours. Paul and Charles, there's yours. And all we ask is 7 or 8 hysterically amusing captions by the end of the programme, or your residuals will be axed. In the meantime, let's cruise up and down the seedier parts of Fleet Street as we turn our attention to a tabloid headline or two. Paul, you must be dental doc.
It's about a man who couldn't pronounce his M's. Goes to the doctor, and the doctor says, you can't pronounce your M's. And he said, you must be dental doc.
With the doctor called Mock.
Yeah, the dentist is called Mock in that case.
The dentist is called Mock.
If you can't pronounce it... No, he isn't, you're quite right.
He couldn't pronounce...
Yes.
John Major can't pronounce his A's. You know, you keep saying, I want a solution. What a stupid want.
It's an unidentified Munich dentist who breaks into people's houses, cleans and fills their teeth while they're asleep, and then disappears without trace. Sort of dental Lone Ranger.
Why in that case must he be dental doc?
I'm sorry.
Look, this isn't Mastermind.
No. I don't think anyone's in doubt about that. Or Dastard dying.
Anyway, about this dentist, if you have a lot of expensive bridge work that needs doing on your upper molars, don't bother with the NHS, just rent a ground floor flat in Munich for a fortnight and go to sleep with the light on and your mouth open. Charles, what are the gay rights that angered Archbishop Carey?
This is something about a prayer book. A gay Anglican prayer book. Oh yes, surprise, surprise. The introduction has been written by the Bishop of Durham. Yeah. You know the fascinating thing with the Bishop of Durham, whenever they appoint an Anglican bishop, 2 names go to the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister can choose one of them. And Maggie appointed the Bishop of Durham, and I'd love to know, what was the other name that she found even more unacceptable than the Bishop of Durham?
Cat Stevens.
Yes, it is. It's a gay prayer book due out next week, despite the opposition of the Archbishop of Canterbury, and containing gay versions of ecclesiastical ceremonies. There's a gay marriage service. Do you take this man, and how often? And there's even a gay divorce ceremony in which parting lovers are urged to bury a seed in a bowl of earth. So if you move in with a new gay partner and every bowl in their kitchen is full of geraniums, then beware. David, yikes. Now it's the broken hand of God.
It's something to do with the fact that David Icke, before he was the Son of God, used to be a goalkeeper for Coventry Reserves. Is that not right? And presumably, like a lot of messiahs, he was often up there on the end of a cross. And And
thank you.
he now plays in another Sunday League team with kind of Buddha at full back and Mohammed playing just in front of the top four.
I'm going to set fire to him in a minute. I've had enough of this. I can sit here with this sort of thing going on.
Well, talking about football, you mean?
Yeah, you're up to that football.
Incredibly boring football.
So I think he played it in some Sunday League team and broke his hand, and I really should have known that was going to happen and not do it, really. But.
Yes, it is former Coventry goalkeeper, former sports presenter, and former inhabitant of the planet Earth, David Icke, who this week was able to play football again for the first time in 20 years. He claimed that until his miraculous recovery, his arthritis was so bad, people even had to open train doors for him. Trouble was, they kept doing so at 100 miles an hour. And finally in this round, Ian, what's caused Fergie's £1 million fury?
This is the Duchess of York. She's suing the photographer who took those disgusting pictures of her with her clothes on. She says that it was an invasion of privacy, and she was just there in a villa in France, having it off with a Texan in front of her kids and a private detective. And this privacy was invaded, which is pretty disgusting.
So it is Fergie and Johnny Bryan who are suing photographer Daniel Angeli and Pairing Match magazine for £2.2 million over the topless photos. The court heard that the couple's private life had been destroyed at a stroke, although it looks like considerably more than a stroke to most of us. Bryan was pictured kissing her toes, lying on top of her and playing with her children. Must be some sort of contortionist. Since then, radio phone-in host Steve Allen has been reprimanded for calling Fergie a strumpet. Given her size, I'd have thought she was more of a strumbone, or which right royal shenanigans herald the end of this round. And the quite intriguing situation is that, well, Paul and Charles have a sagging 4, and Ian and David have an impressively pert 9.
I have to say, Mr. Dayton, we are getting fed up. There you are, talking us down again, a sagging 4. I mean, I can see the green shoots of recovery in the studio as I speak. You, Paul?
The underlying trend is definitely one of defeat.
In fact, not at all. When Paul goes home tonight, he'll be singing in his bath.
Yeah.
Singing in his bath. He's so pleased with the way things are going.
I'll be drunk.
And so we skip likely fourth into pastures all too familiar, by which of course I mean our historic archive round. A couple of bestial what happened next for both your attentions, Ian and David. A man queuing up for a television in a Selfridges sale, who gets given a goat, the way you do.
Vic Green had had only 12 hours sleep since Christmas Day, but 2 passers-by were so impressed they joined him. One brought a goat called Billy to draw the crowds to the collecting boxes. Then came surprise number 1. The TV was handed over to him for nothing. Now he plans to auction it, and the store's managing director gave him a donation by cheque for £750.
There was a goat in it called Billy. Must have taken him ages to think that up, mustn't it? Did he queue up for just a telly? That was all he was doing.
That's what he was queuing up for.
And people came with goats from miles around.
Well, it was Christmas. Yeah.
I think I remember this. Doesn't the goat eat the cheque?
Well, let's see.
But Mr. Green, who proved a genius at collecting money, had slipped up badly on something quite elementary, finding out what goats like for breakfast.
Yeah. Get him back in a couple of days. Might have a hard job cashing it though.
Yes. The passerby in question was obviously keen to get rid of the goat. When will people learn? A goat is for life, not just for Christmas. Paul and Charles, a visit to the zoo for you.
What's it going to mean for the staff, do you think?
This new plan? Well, certainly fewer staff.
The monkey that comes back again and attacks the interviewer, grabs all his clothes and stuff and gets the name badge, and in the confusion the bloke stays in the cage and the monkey becomes a sort of park keeper in the zoo and gets hold of the keys, and late one night lets all the animals out having rifled the cash till and run off with all the king cones.
this was a what happened next round. No one told me. I thought you just had to say what the news story was.
I did say a couple of bestial what happened next.
Oh, did you?
At the start of it, yes.
I wasn't listening.
No one is.
Because it was you talking, you see.
Yes, I don't know.
We don't do
The
that.
clues in the words "what happened next."
Let's just have a look.
So my main objections to the plan are, one, you're looking at a vastly reduced collection, certainly as far as the animal staff are concerned. I'm amused now.
The thing is, it's like they'd been practicing, you know? Straight there, you know? 3 bars and everything.
It was a good shot.
Sense of humour is obviously the strong point of the keepers, isn't it?
Yes. But it's probably, maybe it's something that happens every day.
It was Doug Richardson, the chairman of London Zoo Survival Group, incurring the wrath of an irate gibbon. So now we know where the expression "to go apeshit" comes from. Which scatological illusion brings us steaming to the end of this round, and a minor crisis surrounds Paul and Charles, who have 6, and major triumph looks on the cards for Ian and David, who have 9. And so, as Shakespeare would have said, it's time for round 4. This is our odd one out round. 4 visions of loveliness to espy, which is the 5th columnist. Paul, pick one out of Clint Eastwood, Lisa Stansfield, Roy Hattersley, and the Carpet Mite.
Who's Lisa Stansfield?
Lisa Stansfield is a pop star, Ian.
Ah,
You know, like
right.
Gracie Field or something like that.
Is that what the Carpet Mite does as well?
What, Gracie Fields? I think Ian's on drugs, Angus.
He has to be to do the show.
Have they all had an affair with Bagpuss? Because they've all stood for election, apart from Lisa Stansfield. Because there was the Carpet Mite by-election in 1961 in Wolverhampton, do you remember?
Right, yeah.
Where the Macmillan government put up, you know, there was a strong Tory, and this Carpet Mite suddenly came out of nowhere and said, well, I'm sorry, but the local services aren't good enough. And got in with a sweeping majority.
Yeah.
And then somebody trod on it just as he was going into the house. It's very sad end to a political career.
Yeah.
Last week it was the 12th century, and now you hang this rubbish on the
Yes, well, it's...
I can't wait to hear what the lucid answer is for this one. Clint Eastwood, he's the only one called Clint Eastwood.
Well, the answer is that they all... Do you want to have a go?
Oh.
No.
The answer is that they all suffer from allergies, except the Carpet Mite, which causes allergies. Although it might suffer from them as well, we don't know. Could be allergic to carpets, could be having a terrible time.
Might be allergic to crap questions.
No, Angus, I think it's an awfully good question myself. I like it.
Perfectly reasonable. Roy Hattersley's allergy is to red roses, ironically enough. It'd be different if he could eat them, I'm sure. Clint Eastwood is allergic to horses, which is obviously why you never see him in any westerns. And Lisa Stansfield is allergic to her own saliva. So whose does she use, then?
Roy Hattersley, he's got
Charles, 4 publicity-shy figures for you.
Right.
Madonna, Prince Edward, Johnny Bryan, and Antonio de Sancha.
Let's see.
Yeah, we've seen now.
Madonna sucks toes in her new book. Mr. Bryant is alleged to have sucked toes with a member of the royal family, not the one in the top right picture, I hate that.
By the look of Prince Edward, it's not his toe that's being sucked there.
It is, the odd one out is Prince Edward, as all the others are self-confessed toe suckers. Madonna this week claimed toe sucking was the ultimate form of safe sex. Just wait until she gets athlete's mouth. Right, David, for celebrated British favourites for you, Theresa Gorman, MP, David Essex, Sally Gunnell, and your inspiration, Mary Whitehouse.
Well, presumably, it's something to do with Essex, because I remember Sally Gunnell from Essex, because she did that, you see Essex girls do come first joke when she won, which presumably... So David Essex must be the odd one out, because it would be a bit of a coincidence if he was from Essex as well, because
No,
but I'm not from Baddiel, am I?
Paul Merton's from Merton, mate. South London boy.
Yes, it's absolutely right. The answer is that they're all Essex girls, except David Essex, who rather perversely is from London, and a man. Olympic gold medalist Sally Gunnell hails from Chigwell. It's amazing her white stilettos don't catch on the hurdles. Mary Whitehouse lives in Colchester. Hard to imagine her on the back seat of Darren's Capri. And Theresa Gorman is the MP for Billericay, having taken over from Harvey Proctor, so she now knows his seat inside out. And there's not many women can say that. And finally, for you, Ian, an exotic foursome, not in the Madonna sense of the word, Salvador Dali, the Dalai Lama, Paul Raymond, and Alfred Hitchcock.
Oh, God. Is this a surreal one? Where there is no connection?
The answer is fish. No, it's a silly moustache question, isn't it?
Well,
Salvador Dali's got one, so is Paul Raymond.
And the other two haven't. So it's one man out we're looking for. It looks a bit like Paul Raymond's been dyeing his hair in the way that John Major's meant to be dyeing his hair.
Actually, I think Paul Raymond's been dyeing his face. Look at that.
The answer is, I'm going to have to tell you, is that they've all edited Vogue, except Paul Raymond. Incidentally, the Dalai Lama has agreed to be interviewed by Bob Geldof later this year, so tune in to The Big Breakfast and watch the most saintly and revered man on earth talking to the Dalai Lama. And at the end of this penultimate round, a brief scan of the relevant figures exposes Paul and Charles as the current non-achievers with 8, and Ian and David as the present high flyers with 11. And so we stand quivering on the edge of our final missing words round. 2 sets of insufficient headlines. Our panel's job is to supply the missing links. The team currently poised for an overwhelming defeat enjoy the disadvantage of going first. So Paul and Charles, try these for size. BBC sells El Dorado to what?
Spain? Down and out.
Extraordinary, absolutely right. 2 points. Spain. Next, Perrault chases Bush in what?
Scud. Is it Wolverhampton?
It's not Wolverhampton.
In polls?
In polls is absolutely right. Yet again, next Tory MPs may what? Their whips?
Lend Madonna.
Ignore, defy.
Defy. Next, the Queen's what? Are spaced out?
Corgis.
No, that's not true.
Estates.
Breasts is not true either. No. I'm happy to say Guards is the right answer, I'm afraid. It's too late. And lastly, Church urged to sell its what?
Homosexuals.
Bishops. Electricity shares.
It is electricity shares. It's astonishing.
Paul was deliberately not doing any funny ones, just so he got the point.
Yes. So
no, that wasn't deliberate.
No. So with just 1 point in it, here are your 5, starting with satellite spot huge what in
Fat
Italy?
footballer.
Is there an agricultural thing?
I'll give you one for agricultural thing.
Agricultural thing.
Farm fraud is actually the answer. Well done. Next, Major looks into what?
The deep, dark abyss that he calls his soul.
Well, you're in the right area, actually. It's
conscience?
Black hole is, in fact, the answer.
Right.
Next, Ashdown warns MPs against what?
Shagging his secretary.
don't, don't you?
Silliness is in fact the
Silliness.
answer. So there you are. Next, uproar, shock and shame as Heseltine chases who?
Bush in the nude as well as correct. Chases Tory rebels. All those dismal men who said, we're going to bring the government down. And then they say, no, we won't.
Yeah, I'll give you one for the sense of it. The waverers is in fact the answer.
The waverers, that's one word for them, isn't it?
Yes, they were big in the 60s.
Yeah.
And finally, Kinnock is refused what job?
Any.
Is it Euro?
It is Euro.
Got in a bit quick. I was going to say Euro.
That must have been a blow.
Is the right answer. Very good. Which near psychic demonstration of the gift of foresight signals the end of this once promising contest? But I think what we'll do now, as the scores are absolutely level, both teams have exactly 16 marks, we'll go on to the caption competition and see who comes up with the best caption. Ian and David, let's have a look at yours.
Well, I thought the old lady could be saying, it's good that flashers are now wearing their genitals on their head.
Or it's the Johnny Bryant lookalike competition.
London Marathon is rerouted past Sellafield. Or he's saying, oh, that's it, no more acid for me.
Thank you very much. Paul and Charles, what did you come up with for yours?
Turtles arrested for joyriding, I don't know. Is it Meals on Wheels for pensioners with very hard teeth?
First turtle saying, don't mock.
No, it isn't. I think I'll probably give it to Paul for his Sellafield remark, which means... But in fact, this week we do actually have a prize for real, because our winners this week get a copy of the book that everyone is talking about. Yes, it's Sex by J.G. Bennett. Full of explicit poses of J.G. Bennett in S&M gear. So there we are. You can take that home and
Thank you very much.
there you are, Paul.
You've always wanted that, I know.
But so there we are. On which delightful note we say.
Can you do that?
We say thank you to our panellists, Ian Hislop and David Baddiel, Paul Merton and Charles Kennedy. And I leave you with news that Madonna has in fact already embarked on her new project, rumoured to be a wildlife book. And finally, as speculation mounts that a new approach is needed to the mining crisis, Nicholas Ridley is reappointed to the cabinet. Good night.